Okay, shalom, shalom. I want to talk about the issue of the spring equinox in relation to Yahweh's calendar, specifically the claim that it's pagan. The equinox happened a couple of days ago, March the 20th, 2018, and I received a couple of articles. One was emailed to me. I don't know how they got my email address, and the other one was sent to me to consider. And in both of these articles, this comes up from time to time, but they said that the equinox is pagan. One of them mentioned the word government beast system, which, you know, come on. My Hebrew roots and Torah observant friends, you're more intelligent than this. You're much more studied than this. People sometimes are far too conspiratorial. Let me say that the spring equinox doesn't have anything to do with the government beast system or anything pagan. It is a heavenly occurrence. It is something that takes place in the heavens. The sun has four turning points in the solar year. And those turning points are the spring, what we call the spring equinox. Anciently, all of these points were called in Hebrew tekufa, but we call it the spring equinox. The word equinox comes from the Latin language, which means equal night. It's a reference to the night being equal to the day. And the way that the ancient civilizations determined the spring equinox was by watching the path of the sun as it traveled in the sky. The sun would rise due east and set due west on the day of the spring equinox. And then as we moved into the summer season, or towards the summer season, the sun would rise the furthest northeast that it would ever get and set far northwest. And that would be called what we call the summer solstice. Solstice means sun stand still. The sun appears to stand still for about a week at a time and rise and set in the same direction before it comes back. Going into the fall season, around the end of September, we have the fall equinox. Once again, sunrise and sunset, due east to due west. And then into the winter season, we have the winter solstice at the end of December. And that is when the sun will rise at its furthest southeast position and set at its furthest southwest position, and obviously back to the spring equinox again. If you examine the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will see that the word tekufa, which is used in your Hebrew Bible, Exodus 34:22, where we're to keep the Feast of Ingathering at the tekufa, which is a reference to what we call the fall equinox. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, you'll see the word tekufa is used in relation to the heavenly bodies and specific turning points, or points specifically in general, of the sun and the moon. The time of the full moon is called a tekufa in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so forth and so on. So these are natural occurrences in the heavens. No man is making this happen. No man is controlling the sun. No man is controlling when the moon is new or when the moon is full. Natural occurrences. Genesis 1:14, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to divide day from the night, and let them be, these lights in the heavens, the sun, the moon, and even the stars, the constellations, which once again, I know people, when you say constellations, people automatically think paganism, heathenism. I'll get to that in a second. These lights in the heavens are said in the book of Bereshith, Genesis, to be for signs, seasons, which seasons is the word moedim, which is the Hebrew word translated feasts or appointments, all through the Old Testament, signs, seasons, days, and years. So this is Yahweh's calendar. There's nothing pagan about it. Now you may say, well, Brother Matthew, don't the pagans use the spring equinox? Don't they talk about the equinox and the solstices and all this kind of stuff? Well, sure. What does that have to do with the original purity of the lights in the heavens? If a pagan heathen worshiper or a pagan heathen religion uses one of the lights in the heavens in an abusive form, what does that have to do with the original pure way that they were designed to be used? The witches and the warlocks use the new moon and the full moon in their worship, but the Bible mentions both the new moon and the full moon. Should we discard the new moon and the full moon because a witch or a warlock uses it in their worship abusively? No, we don't allow the abuse of something to turn us away from the proper use of that something. We have a modern day example of this in the homosexual community where they use the rainbow as a symbol of gayness or homosexuality. Does that mean that we can no longer say that the rainbow is a sign that Yahweh put in the sky that he would never again flood the earth? No. The rainbow in its pure form is fine. It's mentioned in the book of Genesis. And we use it. And that is a very biblical Hebrew symbol that Father Yahweh has given us. So just because a group abuses something doesn't mean we should holler pagan or heathen. And so the spring equinox, determining the new year in relation to the spring equinox, has zero to do with paganism, and it has everything to do with the lights that Yahweh ordained in Genesis 1:14 through 18 to be for his time measurement, or as we say, calendar. So this comes up from time to time, and I thought I'd do a little video about it. Do not be deceived by somebody that wants to thwart you away from Yahweh's heavenly lights by hollering paganism and making you scared to use a light in the heavens that was ordained by the creator of the heavens. He gave us those lights. And that's how we determine when a day ends, when a day begins, when a month ends and begins, when a week or a Sabbath takes place. We determine it by the lights in the heavens. All civilizations, to some greater extent or lesser extent, every single civilization known to man originally used some form of the heavenly lights for their calendar. Most importantly, the Hebrew civilization, and that's what we're concerned with. So the first new moon of the year has begun, and the Pesach feast or the Passover is going to take place soon. So I'll stop right there. I don't want to go too far on this video, but be blessed today. Study the equinox. I put together a documentary. Maybe I'll post it in the below in this link. So put together a documentary back in 2011 on this whole thing. So anyhow, have a great day and shalom.